You're listening to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. Here, I share stories from real people navigating the adventure that I call adulting. Are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Hello, friends. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to Kellie Grutko. We talk about a time when she had a really big dream to be the host of her very own TV show. And we discuss all the things that she did to try and make that happen and then what happened next. The reason that I think you'll enjoy this story is that I love it. Okay, that's not actually a good reason all by itself. Kellie took action in a way that I think is really very impressive. A lot of times people have dreams, but they don't actually have any idea what it's going to take to build that dream. And so the expert advice might be, hey, you've got a dream or a passion, just make a plan and take action. But the reality is that if you have a dream that's something like host a TV show, you really may not have any idea what the steps in between could be. So what I do is I ask Kellie, hey, what did you do? How did you figure this out? And the really great thing about this conversation is that she answers the questions, which is helpful. It's helpful because sometimes when we ask a person, hey, how did you do this thing? It's a little bit like asking your mom or your grandma or whoever the chef is in your house how they made a recipe that they've made for you 10 bazillion times in their lifetime. And the answer is, well, it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of that. It's a dash of this, a pinch of that. You cook it for some time and there you go, and leaves you thinking, well, okay, that's not actually a recipe. How am I supposed to do this? So, if you happen to be a person who has a whisper, just a whisper of an idea that's in your mind, but you don't know what the first or the second or the 100th step might be to making it happen, I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. So, it's time. Let's go. Kellie Grutko, welcome to the Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm happy you're here. Are you ready for a fun chat?
I am absolutely ready. Thank you.
Oh, yay. I start all of my interviews asking my guests what part of the world they call home. Where are you today?
I am in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. I'm a transplant from Pennsylvania, but in Charlotte now.
Fantastic. So, we're going to get to the topic of the day. But first, I have another warm up question for you. What is something that is a compliment or a word of kindness that you have shared with somebody recently?
Let's see. That's a good one. Well, I have a friend that just underwent surgery, and they weren't able to get out and drive, and they're finally able to go. So I told them they're a rock star, that they're all healed and ready to go now. So
There
that
you
was my
go.
friend. Yeah.
There you go. That's a great answer. All right. The topic of the day is once upon a time, you developed a pilot for a TV show, including a plan to pitch it in order to be on TV. This is not something that I think a lot of people have done. I talk to a lot of people every single day. This is the first time somebody has told me they did this. So I really am excited to talk to you about this. How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
So let's start by setting the scene. Before you came up with the pilot idea, what was your job? What were you doing? What was going on in your life?
Yeah, so I was working at Fortune 50 company. I was running their marketing department for one of their divisions. And yeah, I'm happy to be there. Loved my job, but just kind of had a dream.
That is really interesting. So a really big company, Fortune 50
Yes.
is a really big company. And so you
Yep.
were in corporate working in the marketing department. Like, what was going on? Was your family, what was going on at home, your family, your hobbies, all kind of stuff? Tell us more about what you were doing.
Yeah, so I lived at the time in just outside Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. My office was up in Manhattan, so I had a lovely commute every day.
Ooh, how'd you do
Um,
that? Did you take the
I
train every day?
I did. I did. I
Okay.
would drive to the train, take the train, and then walk. It was like planes, trains, and automobiles. But yeah, so then, I had a great job, loved all the people I worked with, loved the job. But I just always, did you ever watch that show, Samantha Brown, and she would travel? She was, I think it was on like TLC or one of those networks, and it was all about traveling and showing the guests the different cities that she would go to. And
Okay.
so my concept was similar, but like my tagline was, activate those vacation days, don't waste them. So it's kind of the concept was don't go on vacation, just lay around and come back feeling worse than you did
All
before.
right.
So yeah, had that in my mind the whole time.
The whole time. So you were, how long did it take you to get between Philly and New York City by train?
Well, the whole commute was probably just under 2 hours, like an hour and 50 minutes. The train was probably an hour and 20, hour
So
and 25.
4 hours a day and
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Yeah. 4 days a week. I
Four
work from
days a
home
week.
on Fridays. Yep.
Oh, so 4 days a
Yeah.
week. All right. Did you ever stop and add up how many hours of your life you were spending commuting?
I didn't, but I think that would depress me. So no, I did not add them up.
When I was in my 20s, there was I worked with a guy and they had brought in a speaker, like, for lunch and learn type stuff. And one of the people, I did not know this person very well, but they worked in the office and he had a big commute. And they had him add up how much time he spent commuting. And he came in the day after that. He went home, talked to his family, came in the next day and made an exit plan. He was like, he had not realized it. He'd been doing it for a long time. But
Wow.
it was like when he saw it all added up, he was like, whoa. And no. And I will never forget that. I will never forget that. So 4 hours a day.
Wow.
It's a pretty intense commute. So you say you were happy at that time?
Yeah, I was. I definitely was.
But
Yeah.
you had a lot of time to think on the train.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of reading, a lot of working, a lot of thinking. Yes, for sure.
So I talk to people, I come up with ideas all day long. And I talk to people who are very creative and they're coming up with ideas, but you're the first person I've talked to who's come up with a TV pilot. Like, so why was that? What was that the concept? Like, where was it? When's the first time your mind was like, you know what I want to do is I want to make a TV show?
I know. I don't even know where that came from. I think when I was young, my sister would always say, you'd be great on QVC or you should be a host. And I think those kinds of words always just stuck with me. And I thought it would be fun to be on TV and I like to host. And I'm like, well, this would be a perfect gig for me. So I don't know. I think it was just always in the back of my mind somehow.
All right. And was this something that you had industry experience with? Like, were you working in a TV show adjacent industry? Did you have industry connections? Is somebody in your family like an executive producer for shows? Like, did you have like a connection to this
No.
as a concept? No.
Well, I was in the media industry, so yes.
Okay.
But at the time, I really couldn't use my contacts because it would really be a conflict of interest. I'm working in this space, so I can't go pitch myself in a different area. So it kind of worked against me being in that industry. So then it wasn't until I got out of the industry, I'm like, oh, well, now I could probably pitch this show more actively. But then I lost all my contacts because I was out of the industry. So it just, it was one of those things that just I couldn't find the right time or the right venue to make it happen.
Okay, but you were in the industry, so the idea of the fact that there is a pilot that somebody actually pitches because this is the kind of thing like if you walk into like a PTA meeting, in most cities and said, I'm going to pitch a pilot, probably three-quarters of the people in the room don't even understand the sentence. They're
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? And because the idea of pitching a concept, like it's just they never think it's just not there. And that's why I was like,
Yeah.
all right, so so this was something you were aware that people did. And so
Mhm.
when you had time, downtime and creative time, you're like, oh, well, maybe. Where other people would have
Exactly.
been, I'll come up with a quilting business or that makes,
Yeah.
okay, now I see
Yeah.
the connection. I do see the connection. All right. So people are probably wondering at this time what happened with the show. Now, I actually know already because I'm an insider here. You told me that the show did not get made, but I am curious, how far did you get with this project? Was it just an idea that you like had and walked away from, or tell us what happened?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it really a true pilot. I just created, a script and I hired a production crew to follow me around. Went to a nice place and, the whole gig. I just started reaching out to production companies and like agencies. I didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't in that side of the business. But I just started pitching it. And then I had one person interested and he took it and shopped it around to some like networks and things and then just got back to me and said, they're really just at this time the networks aren't looking for scripted series. This just isn't what people want to invest in, so thank you but no thank you. And at that point I'm like, all right, well, I tried. I'm like, I figured it was a long shot, so I kind of left it on the shelf.
All right, I have more questions about that. But first, I'm going to talk directly to the audience and I'm going to just invite them to the conversation. So, I post a discussion question on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube for every single episode. And I want to invite everybody who's watching and listening to come join us in the conversation. I'll be there in the comments. I'll invite Kelly into the comments and we can talk all about the dream of a pilot and making changes. And it'll be a great conversation. If somehow you're not already following the show on social media, the links will be in the show notes, of course. All right. So picking back up. So you dropped that little sentence in there just real quick, but you were like, I hired a production company and I had them follow me around. This does not sound to me like planning an afternoon tea
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
right.
how long was it? Let's start in the beginning. So you have this idea from a show and it's bouncing around in your head. How much time was this something that was like a daydream for a while, or was it a pretty short amount of time between idea and when you started working on it?
Yeah, no, it was a dream for a little bit, for a little bit. And then I started writing down just ideas. But I didn't know what to do with them because like I said, I was never on the production side. So I'm like, I don't really know what to do with these. And then I think I just kind of researched or asked around if there was someone that would help me, like craft, the script or the concept of creating some kind of video that I could use. And so I found somebody that was willing to do it with me. I contacted a touristy kind of resort and asked if I could trade them, if I could go and shoot my idea on their property. I'll give them footage of their property that, the cameramen take, and just kind of traded that for free since I didn't have the money to pay for it. And then we created the script and they followed me around for a few hours. And then they kind of edited it together for me. And then I started pitching it out to other people. And so,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
So you made a script. You say you didn't know how. I think you knew more than you thought you knew. I got to tell you. So you have an idea, you flesh it out into a script. I'm very impressed by all of these steps actually, because at every single one of these places, there was always the option to not do any of this stuff, to just
yeah.
have the idea. So when you have the idea before you start doing things, do you tell anybody about it? Are you telling people in your life that you've got this idea and you're working on this project?
No, I didn't
No.
tell anyone but my husband who came out with me and to the location. But no, I didn't really tell anybody until actually I probably still haven't told most people. I told a couple after. I'm like, oh, I wish this would have taken off or something like that, but not really. Not really.
Okay, but you did tell your husband, and what did he
Yeah.
say? What did he say when you told him the idea? What kind of reaction did you get?
Yeah, actually a good one. He's like, you'd be good at this, he was very supportive. So yeah, all was good. And at the very least, it was fun. We took a trip, I took a few hours to shoot some video and then, we made a little vacation out of it. But yeah, no, he supported the whole way through.
All right, so remind me because the vacation is part of remind me what the concept of the log line for the show in your right mind was.
Yeah, it was the name of the show was Better Shape Escapes. And the tagline was activate those, don't waste your vacation days, activate them. And so it was
Okay.
all about not wasting you only had so many vacation days a year. Don't waste them by just laying around, coming back and then feeling worse. So it's kind of a health, wellness, travel program.
All right. So like the activate is about being active on the
Yep.
trip.
Yep.
And you did get a vacation out of your test drive of this idea. How
Right.
much time did you spend working on this project to make the pilot roughly?
Oh gosh. Um, well, I mean, I think I've been thinking about it for a good 9 months or to a
Okay.
year. But then just to kind of write it and put it together was probably like a month. I mean, that part was kind of the easy part. It was the jumping in and the unknown that was the hard part, taking the chance.
So 9 months of thinking about it, where it's mostly an idea in your head, it's just kind of bouncing around, and then a month of on the ground like work. And was that had that changed? You were not working for the Fortune 50 company at
No,
that time.
I was still,
You
yeah,
were
I was
still.
still
So this
there.
was nights and weekends
Yep.
working on it for a month. Okay.
Yes.
Random question. What would you when you were looking for somebody to help you with the production? Like you go to, you say you don't know, well, it wasn't where you lived, you were on vacation.
Mhm.
So what did you type into your little Google search engine to find this team?
You know, this was like probably 10, 15 years ago, so I don't even know if Google would have had a good answer for me. I think it was probably a connection through a connection through. I think I just
Okay.
asked, I think that's probably, if I recall, how it came to be.
So you
I
knew
asked around.
enough people in the industry to be able to be like, hey, do you know somebody who would? It wasn't just,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
all
I'm
right.
sure that's how it must have happened. Yeah.
Okay, so that yeah, so there's a little bit more because the people are like, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? And this is the theme of my day today, which you would not know, is that the things that we know how to do or that are easy for us, sometimes it's very hard for other people to understand or even conceptualize. So,
True.
we'll say, oh, I hired a production crew, and people are like, what do you even mean? Like, all right. So this is a month of work, nights and weekends. What was your dream? Like, what would have been a home run success with this project for you?
Yeah, the goal was to have a network pick up the show, make a show out of it,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know how many episodes, but just to make a show, I was going to host and write and create, the concept for each show, and that they would carry my show on their network was
All
what I
right.
wanted to do. Yeah.
And it's so that which is a beautiful, beautiful dream. Beautiful dream. What were the reasons? Did you have any fears? Like when you were pitching this and putting it together and telling your husband, were there any things that were in your mind that are like, I'm afraid of this?
Not really. The only things I was thinking about is probably how to pay for some of this.
Okay.
Because it wasn't something that was in the budget or planned for. So I had to sit down and and talk to my husband and say, look, this will take a little bit of money. I'm going to do it as cheaply and as effectively as possible. But we need to plan for it. So that was the only scary part. Like doing it, I was all in because when you have a dream, you just got to go for it.
So you talked to
Yeah.
us about that. Like, so if you, I mean, if you're willing to share about how much you spent making the pilot before you pitched it, that would probably be interesting to people. But you don't have to if you don't want to. But talk to me a little bit about, what kept you going and what was driving the dream because you had a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't remember what it cost. Really wasn't that much that you would think because I was doing half the work. So it was really
So
just
no
hiring
payroll,
somebody.
no
No, it was
payroll.
just
Yeah.
hiring, a 4 hours of camera crew kind of like so. And I don't even know what that would cost today. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of thinking about that and yeah, and I pitched it to, I like, again, like, I think I Googled agencies or production companies or agents, how, or even, nowadays going to Chat GPT, who
Yeah.
do you approach? Because I didn't know. And then, I would just find a list on Google and I'd get emails and I would start emailing it to people, my concept and then a link to the video. But they get a dime a dozen. They don't like individuals to send them. You have to usually be represented by a company, and I wasn't. And so
Yeah.
again, I was in the industry, but I was naive to this side of it. I didn't know how it got, something got picked up. So I found that unless you're represented by a big kind of agency that brings it to a network or somebody, that they don't usually give you the time.
I mean,
So,
I've talked to many more authors than I have people who are pitching TV shows, and it's a similar thing. The whole indie creator it's hard to get heard and seen by a major publishing house.
yeah.
And so I mean, I think that part of it is not. When you walked into this, you say you were not in the production side of the industry, but had you seen pilots? Like, did you know how to put one together? Like, or was it all new?
No, it was all new. Yeah, it was all new.
I
Yeah.
am so impressed by the conviction to dive in and say I'm going to make. I have known people through my life who've done things like written screenplays or they're inspired they're like I know someone who was an absolute Law and Order fiend and they once wrote like their own episode idea for
Wow.
like a show, right? And then but it was that's a much smaller project. So but the creation, I'm impressed by the creation of the pilot. So when you take me back to your frame of mind And let's talk about you've got a script and you've got this idea. You've talked to your husband, you've cleared the budget.
Mhm.
What is going on in your mind? Pros, cons, forward, not when you're about to pull the trigger and be like, all right, I'm going to make this pilot. I'm going to spend 4 days of my life and a camera crew. And tell me, like, what were the ideas of like excitement? What was driving it? And what was not, what was there and what was not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was excited because I'm like, I thought it would be the perfect job for me. I love my job, but I'm like, everybody has a dream job. So I'm like, this will be perfect. So I'm like, I can do this, no problem. Like again, I was naive. I thought, what's the big deal? So it was probably being naive that like helped me keep going. But yeah, I was just really excited for it. I'd watched all these travel shows. They were my kind of favorite genre of things I would watch, and I would watch the hosts that would be on these shows. I'm like, well, I can do that. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I watched enough of them to think I was an expert at it. And so, I was just more excited than anything. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like I was it's kind of cut and dry. Either people are going to like it or they're not. And I'm okay either way because I have a job I like. So there was really no risk there for me. So it was just more of a kind of pet project that I enjoyed.
very, very cool. All right. So, did you enjoy making it? Did you enjoy the process of working with the film crew on site and putting it together?
I did. I mean, it was fun. I mean, there were people walking around because it was a tourist destination. So, they would stop and look like, who is this person on camera? So it would make me nervous. So that was a little kind of off-putting having all these people look at you. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and we would bring people into the scenes, and it was just I had fun doing it. I don't know that I was great at it, but I had fun doing it.
When you got the production crew edited for you under your guidance, and what was it like to watch yourself when you saw it put together?
Oh, I hate watching myself. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this is why no one's picking it up. I don't know that I'm that great on camera. So
So,
yeah. So
okay. So
yeah.
you sent out the concept before you got the pilot back then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And how long did you send shopping it around before you said, no, this does not have wings?
Well, you start off strong. So you send it out, you get your list, you send it out, and then slowly it starts to putter off. Um, so like I don't know, it was probably like I kept going for the first year. I would do it here and there, send it out, and then I just completely shelved it. And then I pulled it out, I guess, after I kind of got out of the industry and thought, well, maybe I could do it now. I swear, it's like every decade I pull it off and dust it off
And
and see
dust
if
it
it'll work.
off. So you still
Yeah,
do it. So if somebody called
it's
today,
there.
if HGTV called and said, "Hey, we are ready, Kelly, would you like to do this show?" What would how would you respond?
I would love it. I mean, it's kind of morphed into how I kind of got, what I'm doing now in coaching and hosting and helping people. And so I think that's kind of the theme is that experience of kind of creating that kind of helped me get to where I am now because it was all about helping other people, making them feel better, having an impact on people's lives. And so
Yep.
it's kind of full circle. No, it's not a TV show, but I'm still doing elements of it, which is what's kind of cool about it.
That is very cool. One of the things that I talk to people a lot about because I've experienced it myself is that, we think that life is going to be a straight line. And it's really more of like a curvy loop to loop. But the story behind the story is that there usually are threads that carry through. Like, so we'll do different things in different order than we expect. But the skills we have from one place, we tend to take from one to the other. And when
Right.
people are looking from the outside, right? They don't always see that. It might look to somebody like you've made a massive change
Right.
in your job, but if you talk to them, sometimes they did something 10 years before that is showing back up. So you were working in a Fortune 50 company that was a media company. You pitched this pilot. What did you study in school?
Advertising.
Advertising. So you've
Yeah.
always had a pull to media.
Yeah. Well, always, marketing, advertising, something creative. Yeah.
Something creative. Very,
Yeah.
very good. All
Yeah.
right. So you, while you were working on the pilot, you're still working. You do this and you don't tell your coworkers. All right. The pilot doesn't work. You stay at your job.
Mhm.
You stay at your job.
Yeah.
So, but that you're not doing that job now. Take a minute
Mhm.
and tell us what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, now I am a women's transition coach. So I
Okay.
coach women that are they've been climbing that corporate ladder. They've been in companies their whole lives, and now they're just ready to make a change, but they don't know what to do with all those skills and how to transfer it to something different.
Yeah. Then do you tell them you should make a TV pilot?
Yeah, I tell them the TV pilot might not work, but look back at past dreams because that's usually where you can get some ideas of where you might want to go in the future.
Have you
Yeah.
had any more ideas of TV pilots that pop into your head? Have you gotten the itch again to do something on TV or something
Uh,
different?
no, I think that was my time. So I think I'm gonna concentrate on coaching for now. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a podcast like this sometime and I'll kind of be doing something similar. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
that is one of the changes that, like, I mean, it's definitely not network, but like the gatekeepers are gone. Like in
Yeah.
theory, you can sort of, do your own thing. And the challenge is that when you're an indie creator, you have the burden of creating your own audience and
Right.
distributing, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, it's a whole different world now. Yeah, for sure.
it definitely is. So when did you find your way to coaching? How long ago was that?
Yeah, it was about a year ago. I was working for another company locally here in the Charlotte area, and I was there for a couple years, and then finally I'm just like, I'm kind of tired of corporations. I'm kind of tired of marketing. But then I'm like, well, then what do I do? So I struggled, and it was it's like a hit to the identity. It's like, oh, you don't have your title anymore. You go to a party and people are like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I don't know. I really don't have an answer for you. And so it's a struggle. And so I got into coaching because I don't want others to have to struggle. Like I was struggling for a good year before I kind of found where I want to be. And I thought, well, if I can help women get through that faster than I did, I think that's my calling. Yeah.
So it's really interesting that question of what do you do? So I live in Miami, and the first question that people ask you in Miami is not usually what do you do? It's where are you from, which is an interesting thing because it's such a transitional city.
Yep.
But people, I mean, then if you go to a networking type event, people do say, what do you do? There are
Right.
so many times where that is a weird question to ask people,
Mm.
that it's one of those things that I'm like, I wish that people were more aware of what a bizarro question this is. So like, if you and not even bad things, right? Like, so if you're in transition between jobs, but you're not allowed to talk about it yet, you're in negotiations for something, you're selling a company, any of those things,
Mhm.
it's like, you'll ask somebody or they'll ask you and you're like, you know.
I know.
So it's like
Yeah.
when people are doing the whole, here's how you network, they should be like, all right, so, this, think of some other questions like, what's your favorite fried food? I don't know. That would also be a terrible networking, icebreaking question, but there we go. So when you pitch the pilot, you go back to work. In your mind, do you see this as a growth experience, something that you really enjoyed that was just sort of a folly? Or do you have this hanging around in your head as like, I tried it and it's a failure and it didn't work?
No, I looked at it as I tried, right? Because a
Okay.
lot of people would have the idea and never even give it a shot. So
Yeah.
I looked at it as, I had an idea, I followed through, it didn't work, but I learned from it. I had fun doing it. And eventually, in a weird, like you said, thread kind of way, it led me to where I am. And so I chalk it up to a good experience, even though it didn't fly.
Yeah, walk us through how it got you to where you were. So you leave, you're in marketing, you're in corporate, you're in Charlotte now.
Yeah.
You realize that you're unhappy. Do you walk out of that job and like take a break for a while? Is that the part that was hard, or are you still working and sort of mulling around how you're not happy? Or what was the scene like 18 months ago?
Yeah, I was probably not happy in the job. And then I just left because the job changed so much that it was not marketing at all. So I'm like, well, now I'm in just weird territory, not doing anything I'm even good at. So I left, and then I'm like, well, I just got on the hamster wheel again and started applying to marketing jobs because I just figured that's what I have to do. And then I just was doing that forever, and I'm like, I'm just not seeing anything I like. I'm like, well, maybe if I change industries, that'll reinvigorate me. But I'm like, no, that's kind of not going to do it either. And so yeah, so then after I left, I just kept applying and applying
Okay.
and just going through the motions really until I figured out, I'm just done. Yeah.
So you're going through the motions, you're applying for jobs, you're doing that. You begin to have a little bit of an identity crisis. Like, if I'm not employed in this job, then what does it
Yeah.
mean for me? How does the
Right.
thread, what's the thread that pulls through from the marketing job to job searching, to making the pilot, to job searching,
Yeah.
to going out on your own?
Yeah. So I was getting to the point where I was, gonna stop just applying because I'm like, I need to like step back and think instead of just doing what I think I'm supposed to do. I need to really look internally and what do I want to do. So it was probably over kind of a glass of bubbly with a friend that we started talking about my show idea. And then I thought, well, so we kept talking it out. And I think the more you talk to friends and family, the more, ideas and how creative you can be. And so I started thinking, take the TV part out of it. I like to host. I like women's empowerment. I like to help people feel better. I like to travel. So it all started morphing into, oh, maybe I can host retreats and I'll start doing that as my career. And then, so I actually held a couple focus groups because the marketer in me is you don't do anything without researching at first.
Except
Um,
the pilot, which you dove into like
except
without
that.
any.
But I was much
Okay.
younger then, so I didn't know.
Sorry
Um,
for interrupting you, but I like just throwing that in there. That one you dove in cold
yeah,
turkey. All
that one
right,
I
go.
just went for it, and we saw how that ended. So yeah, so I did some focus groups and we're just asking about retreats and what do you think and what kind of came out of it was these are great, but then you leave and then everything you did, you just go back to normal life and you didn't really nothing stuck. So then I thought, well, maybe I can coach these women after the retreat so I can keep, the momentum going. And then the more I thought about it, I just kind of flipped it. I'm like, I should coach first, find out what these women really want to talk about and rally behind and create retreats based on that. So that's what I did. So then I went and I got certified for coaching
Mhm.
and doing that now. And then next year I plan to host some retreats to kind of follow through. So that's kind of the thread that brought it all together was just looking back, internally on what excited me and changing it up a little bit to make it fit.
I think there's a lot of different ways that this applies to people at any different age group. I mean, let's just say that because we do get confused with what we do and who we are. Like, so there's like, you can lean too much into your corporate identity and think it's about you. And that also happens with hobbies, right? You can identify, you can take a hobby and be like, I am sourdough. And then, you decide you don't want
Yeah.
sourdough and you shift. I have a family member who did that with cheesecakes. She was like super into making cheesecakes. Like after like 5 years, she was like, I never want to see another slice of cheesecake
Oh my
again.
God.
The rest of us were like, what? Please bring us cheesecake.
Yeah.
But and you have to go through that identity. So that's one thing that I think is a thread in your story that's helpful. But the other thing is the idea that what we do in one job is not always the only thing we can do. It's looking at what are the skills you have that can translate.
Right.
And I mean, and sometimes that's harder than others, right? So if you have a very, very specific job, maybe it's hard to see that. Maybe it's hard to see
Right.
what that was. But if you were, and I think that happens a lot. You walked this yourself, but when industries change, that's when you see people have it a lot of times. It's like, okay, well, there are no more dodo birds for me to be a veterinarian for, so what do I do?
Right.
And so I think and I think that can happen at a lot of different times. It happened in college. You can be or graduate school. You can be like, oh, I'm studying this thing, thinking it's going to lead to a job, do an internship, and realize, wow, no, what do I
Yeah.
do now? And you either, do you go back and retool with your education, or do you stick around, finish the degree, and
Yeah.
just apply it somewhere else, which is a lot of people do. When you want to change jobs, for sure, that is a thing. It's like, well, I don't have to plan weddings. I can plan other types of events,
Right.
Right. And so you took your marketing skills, and your organization skills and your desire for women's empowerment, and you put it into your own custom thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to go do and in the middle of that, you made a pilot for a TV show and you pitched it, which says a lot about your confidence. Would you consider, if I asked you if you're an introvert or an extrovert, what would you say?
Well, can I say I think I'm an ambivert,
Well, I think
which is
everybody's an
between
ambivert,
the
but
two
just
of
pick
them.
one.
Probably an introvert,
Really?
actually. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
So why
probably.
why do you think you were so brave and confident to reach out to strangers?
I think when you want something bad enough that you just find it in you,
Okay.
you
So
know?
yeah, like it's been a
Yeah.
long time, but there was clearly a fire behind this project of the pilot. Like you were probably
Right.
very passionate about it. Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to wrap up in a second, but I want to give you a chance to directly talk to the audience about your business and how you want them to connect with you after the show.
Sure. Yeah. So the company's called Purposeful Pivot. And again, it's kind of a transition coaching business for women trying to figure out their next stage of life, what they want to do. So it could be anything. People are getting laid off and they don't want to go back to corporate, or they're at corporate and it's just not fulfilling anymore. But what do you do? How do you use your skills? So all different scenarios. So they can connect with me. I have a website, purposefulpivot.net, or just email me, kellyg@purposefulpivot.net. And I have a full framework, a pivot framework that I created that kind of helps women walk through this. A big stage of it is the identity crisis that we talked about. Who are you without that title? And it throws you for a loop when you really just you've been doing it for so long and now you don't have that, title anymore, or what you do. So yeah, a lot of it's kind of self-discovery and helping people create a path and an action plan for what to do next.
Oh,
So, yeah.
very good. And you have a special offer for the audience, which is a worksheet, which you call Celebrating Small Wins. And we have a link for how to collect that in the show notes, which is anywhere you're listening or watching the show. The best place to get the links for anybody who's listening and watching, instead of scrambling for a pen on your train ride or in the car, is to be a subscriber to the Imperfect Adulting email community. Then you get the summaries of all the episodes that come out and links to the special offers zapped like magic directly into your email box, and you can just click on them. So I always like to remind people of that. Are you ready, Kelly, for the final three fun questions?
Oh, boy. Okay. Yep. I'm
People
ready.
people are getting nervous about this, but don't get nervous. I come up with these before every single episode. I just do them for fun. All right. So, if you were going to a zoo, an imaginary zoo, but think about zoo animals. What's your favorite animal that you might find in a zoo? What's a zoo animal that you like?
I like the monkeys, so probably the monkeys.
Monkeys, very good. For
Yeah.
anybody who's listening, this question was absolutely inspired by the videos of the baby hippo that are going around
Oh,
social media. There's like a new
yep.
baby hippo and those videos, and I was like, oh, I think that my purpose in life is maybe to be a baby hippo zookeeper. Just kidding.
Aw.
My actual purpose in life would be to be a panda helper. Have you ever seen the videos of the panda
Ah,
helpers? That looks like a
ah.
fun job. Kidding, kidding. I could only do that for like an hour. Okay, next question. Do you drive a car? And if you do, share something that other drivers do that bugs you.
Oh, well, that's easy for me. Yes, I drive a car, and it drives me nuts when people do not use their turn signals, or they use their turn signals after they've already changed lanes, and at that point it's too late. So
It's like, oh, by the way.
yeah, I can go on and on about that one. Yeah, that drives me nuts.
Good. All right, very good. Now, this one is a very personal question. In your house, what do you guys set the thermostat to at night?
Gosh. Well, it's cold in here. It's gonna sound warm, but it's like at 73, which most people say is like really warm. But for whatever reason in this house, that is cold.
All right, and you guys agree on it, or you have the family fight about what the
No,
temperature should be?
we both agree on that one. So yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Definitely soulmates. If you can agree on
yeah,
the thermostat temperature, you're meant to stay together forever.
yeah.
That I totally think. That's it. Kelly Grutko, thank you so much for being a
Uh,
wonderful guest today on the show.
Thank you. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening today. I hope that you enjoy the show. And before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Obviously, Subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Listen to more episodes. That'd be great. Obvi again, please write a review and tell your friends about the show. That truly is a great help for getting the show in front of new people. Okay, but more fun for you yourself, head over to imperfectadulting.com and join the email community. You'll get some free stuff right away, and that way you'll begin to get the emails about the podcast. This includes the links for the special offers from the guests, and it's the only way to get that. Also, if you aren't in the mood to listen, I actually include an article directly in those emails. Whee! Now, if you love this and you crave more time with me, Amy, as a coach, a mentor, or just adultier adult, numero uno, check out The Village. If you have a story you want to share with the listeners, I'd love to hear from you. I have an open application. Just let me know you want it. And that's a wrap for today. Until next time, remember, the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now, I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that may not mean that you're lost. It may just mean that you're on your way. This is Amy Stone, signing off. The Imperfect Adulting podcast is created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy does not intend or hold herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level.